Hey, football fans, this is Gary Greene, longtime sports handicapper and professional sports bettor here in Las Vegas for the past 35 years, publisher of the Blue Book Football Betting Magazine for the past 30 years. And these are Gary Wins videos. And this one here is going to be for college football week number 10. Some solid betting nuggets to look at. And we're looking at as many as the bigger games as we can, but also there's some hidden gems in there that I'm going to go over for some of the lower marquee type games. And hopefully we'll make you some more money and at least get you a little bit more prepared before you make your Saturday game wagers. And this is our final video for Thursday. So we'll start right off with an interesting one. Duke is taking on Miami, and for Duke, their head coach Manny Diaz, he was the Miami football head coach until he was fired. So you know he's got this game circled. He's excited for this game. On paper, talent-wise, his kids are not going to match up. But, you know, it always helps to have a little added incentive. The kids know this, so they'll give a little extra for him. He's a good coach, and he's got this team playing outstanding football. They lost Mike Elko, and they got this guy, so this Duke team's not doing too bad for a football program. This is a program that was down in the dumps for forever. I'm a Duke basketball fan, college basketball, but men's basketball, but the football team has really played pretty well here over the last, say, 6, 7, 8 years, which is good to see. Last week, Miami had a season low in yards on offense, only 445 yards. Can you imagine that's the season low for the Miami Hurricanes offense? There's some teams that haven't even sniffed 400 yards. Some teams don't get 445 in 2 weeks. So a bad week for them was 445. Their quarterback, Cam Ward, who's basically right in the running for a Heisman, had no touchdowns. That's not a good sign for Duke, because that's not going to happen in back-to-back weeks. But the Duke defense, why is this team hanging in there and playing so well? Well, Diaz prides himself on getting turnovers. At Miami, they had the Miami necklace or whatever it was that they would wear after a big turnover, which is basically for the defense. But he's going to go into this game with 19 forced turnovers by the special teams or the defense. That is outstanding, and that's number 2 in the nation. But he's going to go against a Miami team that's only turned the ball over 7 times. So how do you win if you're not turning it over? Last week, they had a big game there too, and then they ended up losing 28-27. So that's not good. But you know, the key here really is they're going to need to maybe be plus 3 or 4 turnovers, because Duke on offense, they only had 180 total yards against Florida State, but they won that game by 7 because they were plus 4 in turnovers. The key matchup to watch for me in this game is the passing attack for Miami that's number 2 with Ward in the country against the Duke pass defense that's number 16. So they're only giving up 167 passing yards per game, this Duke defense. So they're very underrated. If they can just hold Miami down to maybe 300 yards and get plus 2 turnovers, they can have an outside opportunity to steal an upset victory. The problem that I have coming into this game, and I just still don't understand. I understand a bad team on the road playing somebody to chance to upset them. Say you're playing Texas on the road in Austin. You're an average, you're lower than average team. You're down, you're in overtime. They scored a touchdown. You scored a touchdown, and you don't kick the extra point. You say, hey, this is our chance. Let's go one play for it all. Pull the upset. We can't keep going toe to toe with the big boys, and you do it. But last week Duke did it, and they didn't make it. And to me, if you watch all these videos, when you lose a soul-crushing game, I've done this for 35 years and documented it on next shows, and teams it's hard to get back up for the next week's game. So I would be really, really stunned if this Duke team can just bounce back off of that. They had some things going in their favor if they'd have won that game with playing extra hard for their head coach, who, when someone gets fired, they really want to get back at the other team that fired them. But I just don't know if they have enough weapons. Miami's a juggernaut on offense, and I hate this Miami coach. He's one of the worst in college football, and I'm waiting for him to implode a game. He went back and forth like crazy against Louisville, and Louisville's just, above average for the most part. And so he's going to blow a game. It could be this week, and I would be happy to see it. But I would be stunned to see it as well. Pittsburgh at SMU. And the key thing here is Pittsburgh comes in undefeated at 7-0. SMU's only got 1 loss. both quarterbacks are questionable. So how do you bet a game right now when you don't know who's going to play a quarterback? That's pretty tough. But the last 2 games for Pittsburgh is what scares me off of if I was even going to look at the game to take Pittsburgh. Their offense, the last 2 games, 277 total yards against Cal and 217 total yards against Syracuse. Now, they won both games. So sometimes if you don't know what's going on in the games, I watched these games, the offense was really sputtering. It wasn't what we saw earlier in the year. And now, again, if they have a backup quarterback in there at the time of the game starting here on Saturday, that's going to be a tough road to hoe, winning on the road at SMU. So just take that into consideration here. For SMU, what's really a little stunning, and I never liked this with scheduling. I said this about a couple NFL games, but the SMU team has not played at home since September. So it's going to be November now. That's a whole month they didn't play at home, and it's a long time. So they're doing pretty well. I would expect a good home crowd there to finally see them play a home game. Oregon against Michigan, and this is, man, if this was a game last year, you would have been glued to your TV on Saturday to say can't miss TV. But Michigan's just not that good this year, and their offense, they were carried by a top 10 pick in the NFL for the last couple of years on offense, but they don't have the weapons. They just are a team that's struggling on offense, which I expected that they would do. New head coach in a tough spot following a guy who just won a national championship. And when we look at this game, we look at the Michigan offense, 287 total yards in Big Ten play. So as soon as they had to step it up in their conference, and it's a pretty good overall conference, really, just not able to put yard. You have to be able to get at least 360, 370. 287 is just not going to do it. They're going to go against an Oregon defense that's holding their opponents to 95 yards per game under their season average. That is outstanding, folks. This team is going to be tough to be reckoned with. They got a good offense, good defense, good coaching, good discipline, good depth. Oregon is the real deal. And they're going to go here where Michigan, if they were to hold them to 95 yards under their average, Michigan would total out against Oregon on Saturday at 192 total yards. You can tell me easily, my friend Stevie Wonder could tell me what the score of that game would be if that's the case. So the key thing, talk about it a lot, but it's one of my key factors and why I'm a big winning sports bettor for a long time, keying in on offensive line play. Now, if you saw my video for the Texans and the Jets, one of the reasons that I couldn't bet the Jets because they're the Jets, and nothing showed me any reason why they should be bet on tonight. But my real thing was for the Texans, who I like. The offensive line was just playing so bad, and I feared for Stroud. He's going to get killed against this Jets defense. And what happened? He got sacked 8 times. So offensive line play decides the outcome of probably 50% of games. If you cannot block for the quarterback, you can't win. And if you don't have the talent, overall much better, how are you going to just be able to put sustained drives on the board? But Oregon just precision carves you. Gabrielle is just a precision passer. Reminds me so much of Tua. Boom, 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 boom. They have all the weapons. They have the speed. And the offensive line for Oregon has only allowed Gabrielle to be sacked 10 times. And I used to keep real close notes to give you exact numbers, so I don't have them right now in front of me. But 3 or 4 of those sacks are on Gabrielle because he stays back there to wait it out to try to make a big play. Well, if the quarterback's back there for 8 seconds and he gets sacked in second 9, it's not on the offensive line. So that 10 sacks is really about 5 because this kid does that, but he makes some big plays off of it. And it's no big loss when he gets sacked once in a while. It's not going to crush the team. Certain teams like my Rutgers or somebody like that, they can't afford to be doing that. But the Michigan defensive side of the ball is also going to be missing one of their studs in cornerback Johnson. So that doesn't bode well either against Oregon. Some games, they're both sides you can't make a case for. You have to eliminate people, and I go right down my list, checking off. It's like my friends. I'm not a horse bettor per se, but a couple of guys. I've been out in Vegas for 35 years. I used to be in a big horse racing club where I would just put my money in with the group, and they made all the big bets for the big race things that you get paid. I forget even the name. I enjoy watching the horse races, but the big payouts. And these guys just would go right down a thing while they're looking at it and X off 4 right off the bat. So now you're down from 10 horses to 4. Why do the same thing? There's a lot of teams that are just unbettable. You don't want to bet bad teams. And what would you be looking at in Michigan here? It's just a really tough spot. Now you can give them the home crowd and everything, but this team's just not that good. You don't need to bet bad teams in a situation that the offense is really not that good. So that's a key factor in how you stay a winning bettor, or at least stay in action. You don't even have to, if you're not doing this like me for a full living, you can still hang in there with your bankroll and last a lot longer by just betting smart. One of the bigger games is Ohio State at Penn State, and I talked about this in one of my other videos as I did the marquee games, but just for this video here, Ohio State's 0-3-1 as a road favorite versus top 10 teams since 2021. And what does that mean? That means the coach can't win the big games. It's great and easier to win at home in front of your own crowd. As soon as you get on the road, you just can't win the games. That tells a lot, and that's why he's on the hot seat, no doubt about it. This guy can't, to me, lose another game this year. He's going to have to pull a runaway train for the rest of the year. He's got a tough game here at Happy Valley. This place is going to be rocking. I mean, rocking. The fact is, though, the quarterback for Penn State, Aller, might not play. It's game time call. That's tough. But both head coaches have shown they can't win a big game. And so how do you bet this game? I don't know. I guess, I said this for the Texans-Jets game. Maybe you just bet the under because it would be surprising that the game would go over. In this case, I've watched Penn State play forever. They just play not to lose against anybody good. They play not to lose. And guess what? You lose. Just like playing prevent defense on a final drive. What happens? I'm sure every fan watching this watches this stuff and they talk about it and they get burned for the touchdown and people say, you're preventing winning. And that's what Franklin has done. I just don't understand it because he's had the talent. But the defense for Penn State is really good. The offense for Ohio State last week really struggled against Nebraska. They have the best running back room maybe in the country, but the offensive line's not playing good. And I just don't know how you would bet this game either way. Now, you're getting a little value because Penn State's an underdog at home, so you're getting a little bit of point value. Trust me, the sports books were sweating the Jets winning that game by 1 point tonight. They did not want that because the game went from a pick'em to a Jets giving 2.5, and that would have middled them out, and that would have killed the sports books. That would have been a tough loss. They're happy with the outcome. Next game up is Arizona State at Oklahoma State, and Mike Gundy, the head coach of Oklahoma State. This is his worst year in a long time. No matter what, this guy has figured out a way to piece together at least enough winning of a season that he's getting a bowl game, and for the most part, a half-decent one, not like the lower garbage bowl, toilet bowls that are out there with a million bowls. This guy has gotten the job done, but he's 0-5 his first 5 games in the Big 12 this year. Everything's gone wrong. He came in with one of the top 2 running backs in the country. Can't run the ball. Injuries, just poor tackling. Defense, one of the worst I've seen, not just in the Big 12, but in the country. In fact, the defense, I think, is ranked right down there near the bottom. They might be in the bottom 5, if I recall. But Gundy, one thing about him, as an underdog, these guys relish that opportunity. And it's surprising that they're an underdog at home to Arizona State, who has played well. And I like the young coach at Arizona State, but Mike Gundy's 9-2 against the spread as a home dog since 2015. And he knows how to rally the troops. So this is a team and a game he can win, and he doesn't want to go winless in the Big 12 this year. So you have to say that, they have a running back. If he can get going and get off Gordon, they have an opportunity to win at home. I mean, it's not like Arizona State's any great shakes. But the key matchup for this game, Oklahoma State, even though they're really bad, and it's the run defense that they can't stop anybody. When you can't stop anybody, what's the reasons? 1, they're too small. 2, they have no depth. 3, they can't tackle. They're too small. Unbelievable. This is the smallest defense I've seen Oklahoma State. And they predicate themselves on offense really over the years. They have a good quarterback, good wide receivers, good running backs, usually good offensive line. But they're giving up 6.8 yards per carry and over 300 rushing yards a game. And the key here is that would keep me from betting Oklahoma State is Arizona State's got a very solid running back. Running back who's got one of the coolest names in the college football, Scatibo. He rushes for 5.7 yards per carry. So take that to consideration as well. The world's largest cocktail party is Florida-Georgia. I gave again, if you check out my other college football marquee games of the week, top 10 games of the week, Georgia's number one ranked. But surprisingly, which is very rare, the number one teams or the top 10 teams usually at worst finish 500 against the spread, if not 9-3, something like that in the 12-game schedule, say in college football, same in the NFL. But they're 0-5 against the spread, Georgia, as a favorite since opening day when they demolished Clemson. So they're not winning big like they should, but they're a good team and they're well coached and they have very good players. So the winning won't stop going forward for any reason other than just they're killing you in Vegas. Or when I say Vegas, it means in the sports books, so it's all over the country now. But got to give Florida credit. Their coach came in, wow, his seat was so hot, his pants were on fire. Head coach Billy Napier for Florida. They're 4-0 against the spread the last 4 weeks. They're finally playing pretty good. And they're going to try to avenge back-to-back losses to Georgia the last 2 years. Georgia beat them pretty soundly, 43-20, 42-20, almost the same identical game transpired in the games 2 years in a row. For Florida, if this guy could somehow pull off an upset, I would have to think they would have to give him another year unless he crashes it completely the rest of the way. The fact is that you have a freshman quarterback this time around, and that they've been getting away with a little bit of murder, kind of, some criminal activity the last few weeks where nobody's really noticing, and I'm noticing it. They won games, but when you're winning with mirrors, you got to be careful, and this isn't a game that I would expect that they're going to play really, really well against the Georgia team that once they lost. If Georgia was undefeated, I would say every week Georgia could be ripe for an upset and a letdown. But they already got their loss, and they can't have another one. That's 100% they can't have one. And they've regrouped after that first game, and they seem like they're on their way to the SEC title game. Couple more, last game. This is the last game on the board for this video. Two big trends to watch. This is really one of my favorite games every year. I try not to miss these games, the Academy games. And this one here pits Air Force and Army. And it's kind of role reversal because for a while the Army team was the dregs and Air Force was really unstoppable. Their offense has been fantastic, well coached. The guy's been there forever, fantastic coach. But now the tide turned. And you have Army coming in here undefeated. Army is going to be the number 8 defense, and they're going to take on Air Force offense that, again, is very difficult to defend. But they're the third or fourth worst offense in the country. 127, 14 touchdowns all year. That's the third lowest amount of touchdowns. They beat Merrimack in the first game, so they got a freebie. If you didn't have that freebie game, this team would have no wins, which is really surprising because this team played great defense. Even if they had to grind out wins, they would win 14-13. They could get away with it. They can't score even 14 points. I don't think they could score 20 points against Army and win. They need more than that, and I don't think that it's possible. But you go into the game, Army's actually favored by 22. That's the highest line since 2003 in this series. And the trend of the week is that Army, Air Force, the last 10 years, all 10 games have gone under. And even when they keep lowering it and lowering it and lowering it for some of these Army-Navy games, they still keep going under. And the reason why, they both know each other. They're running pretty much the same offense. But Army right now has a great quarterback, just like Navy. And don't shrug off Navy because they had a bad week against Notre Dame. Notre Dame's really good. Navy got caught, fumbling pitch after pitch. And that's the one thing with that type of offense. When you're doing a lot of big pitches, if they don't go perfectly, they're trying to flip it at the last second, they turn into fumbles and they turn into turnovers, and then they're in trouble because their defenses really can't keep up with the higher echelon teams. But Army 7-0. They're 6-0-1 against the spread. They're outgaining their opponents by 178 total yards per game. 178. That is absolute A+++. You cannot get a higher grade. That is off the charts. 28 points per game average win. This is the best Army team in years, and man, I cannot wait for Army-Navy. Even when they were bad, I couldn't wait for it. That is going to be the greatest game. Well deserving that the whole country is going to see it, and there ain't going to be no 32 total, which is fantastic as well. So very interesting. The other really worst trend for this game, there's a lot of interesting trends or numbers, whatever you want to call it, just a betting nugget if you want to call it that. But Air Force has played the 100 or the 15th easiest schedule in college football, and for the most part, they have no wins. That's how bad they've fallen, and it's a shame because you don't want to see it, but I would be hard pressed to see in any shape or form that they can compete with this Army team. This Army quarterback, Daly, is really good. I really like this team. And again, they're not playing just like Navy going into last week. They didn't really play a hard schedule as well. But the fact is that Army is a really, really good team. Navy's still a really good team just because they lost to Notre Dame like that. No real loss. Notre Dame was just a better team, and they took advantage of all 6 of those turnovers as well. So hopefully these betting nuggets have helped you a little bit get more prepared, maybe change your mind on something, or maybe sway you. I don't know. I haven't even. I've got a lot of check marks for games for this weekend. I'm just excited for the card. I do see some really good matchups. And we have a great card in the NFL because I think there's only one game over a touchdown favorite. So that means they're closer games, and they're the games that I like to handicap. I actually love games in the NFL that are 3 points or less because they're pretty much more or less picking the winner. And, if like last week, I lost with Kansas City, my only loss in the NFL. And, I don't have any problems with it. The Raiders scored on the first drive, and then they scored on a backdoor touchdown at the end on the final drive of the game. Kansas City's defense played exactly as good as I thought they would. But, it happens, and that's okay. But the NFL is much better when you have a lot of close games. But the injuries is really much different in the NFL. They're piling up at an alarming rate. So hopefully I could get you a little bit more updated with NFL stuff. That's why I try to wait till later in the week so I can get a better feel who's playing. I mean, if I knew that there was 2 offensive linemen out for any team, even an average offensive line, that to me totally sways the game. So I'll try to get together some more good videos tomorrow and Saturday. At least do 2 good ones for you for the NFL, and maybe try to get one more good college video out here tomorrow. And I'll try to get you a Monday night and a Sunday night because I know that everybody bets those games. So I try to get you up to date. That's why I did it for the Jets game. And pretty much everything I said came to fruition. It wasn't that surprising. And my friends tell me a lot of times that they say you just steal all your information from Stevie Wonder. Stevie Wonder's been dead right on all this stuff. Well, you don't have, Stevie Wonder can't see, and he could see what's going on some of these games. And it's not that hard. I use the KISS system. Keep it simple, stupid. It's not as hard as you think. But just because everybody bets one side, you don't bet the other side. That's not some winning system. That's just foolishness. That's all that is. So be careful of that. So if you have any questions, you can reach me anytime at GaryGreenWins@gmail.com. And you see Greene in the background is GREENE. So it's GaryGreenWins@gmail.com. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hope all your wagers are winning ones the rest of the weekend ahead. And have a great night, and never bet what you cannot afford to lose. God bless.